everybody. Welcome to the Training, Learning, and Development community. Thanks again for joining us. We're now doing part 2 of the Hitting Reset series that Nick Floro is so generously sharing with us. And what we're doing is we're reimagining the LMS, which is totally a fascinating idea. I know that as we've gone through this LMS playlist series, I've heard a lot of what people like and what they don't like about LMSs, but this is something that I think, even if you're shopping for an LMS or you're just reconsidering what you've got now, this is a great idea. Like just trying to use design thinking and a MIRO board to sort of like figure out what's important to you, what's important to other people. So Nick, I want to thank you again for doing this one. It's so incredible to be able to watch you do this and to show us your expertise in using this MIRO board and how you even use LMSs. So with that, I'll just I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, thank you. So kind of jumping off from what we did in our first session, the idea was that we were going to use design thinking to work on creating ideas and looking at building some prototypes today in this session, part 2. And the goal was that everyone has a link to the MIRO board. If you don't currently have that, I'm just going to grab it and pull it into you guys here. Copy, paste. So I'm putting it into the Zoom chat. I gotta undo that. Copy, paste. And that link will invite you into the MIRO board, which I'm also sharing on my screen. And the goal today is to get you guys to participate. So if you want to come off and onto audio versus using the Zoom chat, and or turn your video on if you are willing, feel free to jump on, but I wanted to make this more of an interactive session. That's why we switched over to Zoom for today's session, which is to kind of play and experiment and see how the TLDC community would like that or not. It's like trash. Very cool. So in that first session that we did, the goal was we have this big board here in MIRO, and it's kind of divided vertically into the 5 steps. So in that first step, the goal was to use your empathy and to help understand the audience. And what we did is we created a couple of prompts to get you guys thinking about why or what is important to you and your audience in looking at an LMS. And the goal was using a tool like MIRO. There's several other tools. There's a bunch of links at the bottom of this board that give you some of those tools that are out there. The goal is to capture some of the different things that you're either gathering from your audience or from your committee and kind of visualize that on screen. You also want to think about the criteria that you might use, and we added a couple articles that you might link out to learn more about that. But as you start to capture this data, one of the fun activities that we often do nowadays is as we're going through grabbing all this information, when we get into that step 2, which is define, we need to start to figure out what are the priorities to this group or committee that is meeting together. So what I did is I grabbed several of the sticky notes, actually all of them, that were commented or left on during that first phase. What are the core elements? And I just copied them over, option drag them, and they came over here. One of them is purple for no special reason. But one of the things that we would do as a collaborative exercise is look to get everyone's feedback on these elements. So if you're currently in the MIRO board, you can do this. If you're not, you won't be able to participate, but that's okay. You can chat or chime in if you want to. But in the chat here of Zoom, I added the link, which is just steelworks.team/TLDC LMS, and that'll bring you right into the MIRO board. And if you come in, you'll notice that there's 3 of us currently in here. You'll be able to kind of follow me around and or look at the whole board, but you can also add comments or ideas or concepts or actually participate in the voting. So one of the cool things I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab and say, everyone follow me inside of MIRO. And if I zoom into this area, one of the goals when we go into this ideate is to gather feedback from the participants. So down in the lower left-hand corner of my screen, I have the ability to turn on voting. And I've already prepped it. And basically what I did is I said, hey, we're going to vote on the core features. And I'm only going to open up the vote for 3 minutes. And everyone can vote 5 times. So if you join the MIRO board, you'll be able to click on the stickies up to 5 times. And the goal is basically to vote on which of these dozen items are most important to you or the audience that you're imagining working with. So in the lower right-hand corner of the sticky, you'll notice there's a little plus icon indicated here. So I want to be able to add content. I want a CMS. I've got to integrate with an existing ecosystem. So I'm going to connect to another system. I think search is super critical. And I might go with learning paths. I want the ability to curate content and create a path for a specific audience that might be needed for sales versus support versus whatever other groups that we're working on in my audience. So when I have my 5 elements, I can't vote anymore, but you guys can actually click. If you clicked on that MIRO board, you'll be able to actually hit those pluses. And what'll happen is you'll see how many people vote in each element. And the goal here, if you look at my screen in Zoom, is that we can use this to kind of quickly gather data from our collaborative group and kind of figure out, here are the 4 or 5 elements that we want to focus on today as we move through the design thinking process. And we might start to wireframe a concept or 2. So you can kind of see, because you're seeing my screen if you're looking at that, or if you're looking at it on your own, you can go in and actually click and add a couple of votes by hitting that plus key. So there's about 30 seconds left in that vote, and when it's all done, it'll say how many votes I have left, how many votes you guys have left, and then it'll tabulate the results. So we'll just wait for that to expire. I'm just going to pause while we're waiting for those votes to come in to see if anyone has any thoughts or comments or questions that they want to throw out there. This is your chance to throw out feedback or questions, or why are we doing this?
Hey, Nick, I'm not seeing that. I see the plus signs when you do yours, but I'm not seeing them. Oops, I'm not seeing them on mine. Or is it you just click on it? Should I be seeing a plus sign? Sorry,
You should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good feedback. Maybe I didn't open it up. Let me see.
I don't see those either, Nick.
Okay,
right.
Cool. Thanks, Trish.
Let's see here. Let's try it one more time. And for all. So it'll just give me my votes. That's not cool. It's all about me. So. All right. So we're gonna votes per person. We'll go 5. We'll go 3 minutes. Voting 2. We're gonna vote on this area here. Where objects inside this area will be available to vote. Start. Start now. And do you have that ability?
Now it looks like it.
Okay. Cool. So now you guys, you're in there. Thank you. You should be able to have those little plus keys. Cool. So I won't hit vote now in case it stops you guys from voting.
Yeah, that time I saw a vote now button that said go for it. So.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So it has to, okay. Yeah, you have to trigger it. The user has to trigger it. Okay.
I didn't see that before.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that lower left-hand panel, there's a little thumbs up. Click that, then hit vote now, and then you'll be able to click on the 5 pluses that you think are most important. Can I do it?
Oh, we just get 5. Okay.
Yeah. Search.
Can you put all 5 votes to one if you want?
I don't think so. I'll show you
me,
a different way of
ask.
doing that. Yeah, that's good. You want to sway the vote. In a perfect world, the goal is to kind of spread your vote. I think because I'm in 2 different sessions, I can't vote. I'm using the iPad and the computer. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and try voting too to see what happens. Did that make you guys stop, or you guys still good? Badge, search, recommendation, playlist, and CMS. So I'm gonna hit done. I'm gonna go ahead and hit end for everybody unless someone objects. And end for all. And then it'll bring up the results here. Let's see if we got more than 1 vote.
Oh, cool.
You can also delete stuff. You're like, I'm not voting for that. So as a facilitator, I can actually lock things down. There we go. So we got 4 for search, 2 for CMS, 2 for video coaching. Cool. Got a range of items. So I'm going to go ahead and screen grab that just so we have that for later to refer back to, and I'll add it back to the board. So that's one way that we can use to gather feedback when you have a larger group that may not be working together every day. It's good to prep them. So prior to the session, you might throw out a vote just to get them used to it, along with a quick how-to guide. I hadn't done voting in a week, so forgot over Thanksgiving. Okay, so the other thing that I did is in row 3, I have this big white area here that I'm going to zoom into and just kind of talk about a couple other techniques that we use to grab data. One is more traditional. In the old days, like last year when we used to be physically in a room with people, we used to do what's called dot voting. And so we went to recreate that virtually. And in products like MIRO, they create virtual versions of this. And basically what you would do is we've got several screen grabs that we've collected through the phase 1 or the first call that we did together. And the goal is that everyone would pick a color. And because we have more than several of us here, we could share colors. But the goal would be basically to grab a color and move that in into over the different graphics that are there. So if I grab a yellow sticker, for example, I really like the way that this, I'm gonna go ahead and copy that, and I'm gonna paste it. And so it comes up on top. And because multiple of us are in here, I didn't lock things down because I wanted you guys to be able to play and experiment. But for whatever reason, let's say I love the way that this email, this person, and the little chat bubbles are up here in that upper right-hand corner, I can go ahead and add my dot to this area, and blue would be mine. But the goal would be that you would get several stickers that you can align to the designs or the concepts so that we can collect data on what we like or don't like as well. So if everybody wants to grab a sticker, it's best if you copy it and then paste. And I would zoom in, and it looks like one of our boards got moved. So I'll go ahead and try to clean that up while we're playing. So the goal is that if we grab a sticker or move a sticker, and if you don't cut and paste or copy and paste it, it's going to appear behind it because we move the layers around. But if we like these icons along the left-hand side, a lot of times when we're looking at interface design, if the window is smaller or you want to give more real estate to the primary area, you might use icons along the left-hand side. And then there could be a trigger, like clicking on the A logo here. It may open up or expand to tell you what those commands are. Here we see that this is kind of the universal symbol for filtering. Most users may not know that, so we may need to change that or update that so that people understand, like by labeling it, what that actually means. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. And if anybody wants to chime in, Tricia, our guinea pig, our participant. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and lock these graphics just so that people don't accidentally move them. And so the idea was that over on the left, you grab a sticky note, and then you're able to, or a sticker, and then you're able to move that over, cut and paste or copy and paste and put them on top of what you like. So we might like these card concepts, so I can grab and put them. And the goal is that as a UX person or a learning architect or just a manager, you would look at all this data and start to analyze and say, okay, we've got 4 orange stickers, 3 blue ones. So we know Nick is orange and Trish is blue and Lewis is green. And we can kind of see that maybe Trish represents the support team, Lewis is the sales team, and we want to be able to kind of get a sense of who wants what and how they want it, or where they want it. The other 2 concepts that I threw in here, one is called a affinity diagram, and the ideal is that as we had those different concepts, we might use the ones that we voted on. We can go ahead and kind of start to organize by level what's most important. So the most important items would be in that first tier, the top level, and then we have a second, third, and fourth level. And the goal would be that we can capture those concepts. So it looks like search got the most votes. So I'm going to go ahead and put search up here at the top. and we might have some questions or dialogue around what's critical or what's important when we start to look at that and how that would actually work. And then the goal is to kind of have a couple of items, and you would debate or talk about, hey, at our top level, we want to have at max 5, and our second level, we have maybe 3 or 4, and we kind of keep breaking it down, and you look to get a consensus, and the goal again is to get everyone, including the stakeholders, to agree so that you can better organize and focus on, here are 3 key elements when we're shopping or designing an LMS, what we want to prioritize or what we want to grade against if we're using a rubric or something to evaluate. The other one that's also very similar, and you can do it as a collaborative activity, is basically you would take a couple of minutes and have everyone add a sticker or a sticky note, and you would start to capture them, and then by discussing and debating, you would start to rank elements. So again, we saw search was our number 1 item, so we would pop that up here. Maybe we use video coaching. All the other elements had 2 votes, so we can go CMS and video coaching. And if I wasn't being lazy, I could go get the other elements and move them up. But the goal would be that most important is search, and then we've got video coaching, CMS, analytics, data sync. So I'm just going to grab a couple of those. I can type. And again, you would just kind of have this diagram that you can then share and maybe bring it onto Slack chat or somewhere else to kind of collect that data and work with it, and then you're able to spin that out. But that's just kind of gives you another way to evaluate and kind of figure out, okay, we have our criteria, and it's not so one-sided. Everyone has transparency to how we got to it. You might record the meeting or have a transcription so we know how different teams voted, and you might get more structured, or you might leave it more open depending on how you roll within your organization or the team that you're working with. The last one, go ahead, questions?
Yeah, Nick, I was going to say, to export these, would you just do like a screenshot and pop it into a PowerPoint or something, or is there a better export tool?
Yeah, what's really cool is that in MIRO, if you create a board, so I'm going to come over here on the right-hand side, and I'm going to close our vote. And if I grab this little frame icon, I can draw an area. And when I paste, this is the 4th area that I want to kind of share. So I'm going to go ahead. So if I select that, under the ... you have the ability to export. And you can say export as image. And then when you do that, in the upper left-hand corner, you can go large, which is super high res, 7,000 by 6,000, or you can say PDF vector. And what's cool is that you can then open that up in Illustrator or whatever your favorite vector-based tool is, and you can actually edit even or manipulate that data. Screen grab also works if you're in a quick rush. So that's cool. And this was the 4th one that accidentally got moved around, but same concept where we're doing what's called a features audit. And the goal would be that everyone would kind of add a bunch of stickies, or we would take those items that we voted on and we would reclassify them based on feedback from the team. So most of the time when people enter the LMS, they are looking for search. So we might say most of the people, most of the time are looking for that. So we would pump that into here. And the goal is to figure out, again, based on these cross sections of data, where the most important elements are. So, finding out what is assigned to me. That's also something we often hear is, I don't know what I have to do or where I have to go. But again, just gives you a different way to reclassify and work with the data. So I'm going to zoom back out and we'll pop that into this area here. So any of these templates you can copy, paste, manipulate, whatever you want, because you're all guests within the MIRO board. What's also really cool within MIRO and the products like this is that along the left-hand side, I've customized my toolbar, but I can go into templates and they've got a whole library. So I can say, bring up all the templates, and they've got everything from a simple mind map to like, what does Disney do, or Pixar, who's now part of Disney. But we can see different templates that people have uploaded and shared, and you can kind of use that to customize and build your own version to help collaborate with your team. So once we have all our features locked in and figured out, that next step would be to go in and start prototyping. And what I want to do is just kind of walk everyone through really quick how you can use MIRO to start the process. So in this fourth tier, we would zoom into this area, and you have a couple different things you can do. What we usually try to encourage teams as they're starting out is to do sketching. And I think we did a quick preview of this last time, where you can use the pencil tool or you can use basic polygons. But the goal would be that I'm just using my mouse so I can draw a square, and we can imagine when a user comes into this page, there's going to be an image here. We're going to draw the old mountain landscape and some snow. And if I was being careful, just using the mouse, no cheating, we can say hello. Let's see if I can write this out. And if I was taking time, I could go in and use the text tool, and we'll use some different wireframes, but just to show you how sketching works. What's cool is that if I wanted to cheat now, I can zoom in with my tablet, and we can draw a little bit nicer. So after a user sees that welcome area, we can go ahead and grab the pen tool, and maybe we'll draw with blue. We can draw like 3 boxes, so the user would have a choice of 1, 2, or 3. And then we might have like a bubble here to represent, you know, how much time they've spent inside of the LMS, or what their average, or if you're having some type of leaderboard, you know, what are the key elements that we want to talk about or frame against, so we can have a couple of people represented here. And the goal is just to kind of capture ideals as you're talking and collaborating, and kind of look at how can we visually represent them. The next step that we often do, if the team that you're working with has the ability, or as they get more comfortable, you want to start off with some basics and then kind of grow them into it. So what I would normally do with my design team is have them all go and capture different things that represent their favorite search as an element. So I'm going to grab a sticky and just pop it over here just to represent our search really quick again. And I would say, hey, everybody, you know, when you think of search, what do you think of? So the first thing I think of is Google. So I'm going to go ahead over here and just bring up a window and start to type in apple pie. And when I do that, I'm going to grab my screen grab and pull that in. You're going to see it's going to upload here. And what's really cool is that when you look for ideas, I'm using Safari on a Mac right now, but when I type in apple pie thinking about Thanksgiving, it automatically pulls up whatever the #1 apple pie site is, but it also shows me here are other things that you might meant to type. So this is a concept that most LMSs fail at, where they're not able to auto finish what you're thinking or what you're typing in. And as a stakeholder or as part of the LMS team, you want to be able to have some control over this. So for whatever reason, if our job is to help people learn how to make apple pies, that's what we're teaching in the LMS. I want to make sure I can put our favorite recipe or the #1 thing that everyone goes to when they come to our learning tool higher ranked. So I don't want the system to auto fix. I want to kind of pin it at the top. So that might be a control that we want. So as we're talking about and kind of looking at those things, I might start to grab and highlight some of those elements. So I might say, hey, we want to be able to autocomplete. And what's cool is that as you start to work with the team, and one of the goals I want to do with Lewis here is if we do this a couple more times in the future, Trish may come in and add a sticky and add another note that we want to be able to pin items. And what's cool is that as you start to type in or collect these different thoughts, you'll start to bundle them together or organize them. So autocomplete and pinning are 2 different concepts, but we want to be able to automatically, I'm not thinking of the right word, so I'm just going to say inventory our courses. So we want to be able to have the system automatically go through the content and pull those elements in. We might also want to be able to add tags to elements, or maybe based on people's feedback, ranking of courses. So these are all factors that might, change the way that the search engine works. So one of the questions that we would ask our LMS team or the team that's evaluating, or if we get to do all these great things, what are the abilities that we have within the search engine, within the system that we're buying or open sourcing or building, and then you would kind of do that. But so there's 2 things here I want you to walk away with. One is that as participants, you would all, get different sites that you love or like. So whether you hang out in a certain site like LinkedIn or Google search, or within your current LMS, maybe you love it for some reason, you might want to grab images of those different elements and you would collect them here, so that as you start to visualize or think about how do we build version 2 or evolve into what our users really need, we have those for quick reference. So you can screen grab, pop them in, and that's one of the things I love about Miro, is that you're able to quickly pull those assets together and just kind of think about, hey, these are all the things that we're talking about in search. What's also cool is that this was a sticky note. I'm going to go ahead and just change it to text. And when I do that, I can make it super big so I can clearly see that search, this is all the stuff that's within search in this area. Any questions or thoughts?
It's very
Open
nice.
it up. It's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
All right. So the other thing that's really cool within Miro, and each product that's out there has its own little flavor of fun or things that it does well. Miro kind of does everything well. Like, they've been really rapidly developing it. But one of the cool features that they also have is actually called wireframing. So if I move my cursor through here, got to remember where I put it. What's cool is that you can also bring in stuff like from Adobe XD. So if we had an example, so the little X, I've added it here. If you don't see that in your tool palette, if you click on the ... in that left-hand toolbar, you're able to say get more apps, or if you type in the word wireframe, it will show up. I've already added it, so it's not going to show up again, but you'll see that as you start to type in the word wireframe, there are different hooks into InVision, into Axure, UXPin, Marvel. These are all tools that are out there. So what we would typically do is, if I open up the wireframe library, if you look in the Zoom again, you'll notice that there are a bunch of different templates here. And I've already grabbed a web browser window. So what's cool is that at the top, I can grab a text block or a rectangle. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab that. That's a big rectangle, so I don't want that one. So here's a text area. So this might be an area for adding feedback. So we can go ahead and pop that in. So when you're building your wireframe, you want to start with what's called a lo-fi, which is kind of a, just boxes and shapes. So I'm going to say, what can I help you find? You want to get something that helps the user, get prompted to fall in or join in. And so I can resize that. Maybe I can't. And then we're going to go ahead and add a button. So if I come up to the search, I can type button, and we can grab a button and pop that in. So we're just going to say search. Again, I can almost type. And I can pop that in over here. And the goal is just to kind of quickly capture these different concepts. So if I want to grab these two elements, pull them over, down below, kind of like we saw in that screen grab, we want to start to capture some of those different ideas. So I'm going to close the wireframing area and just grab some plain text for a second. And I'm just going to write test. And that went behind, I think. Test. It defaulted to my favorite color, white. Test. We're going to make it smaller. So using that apple pie example, we're going to say apple pie result 1, apple pie result 2, apple pie result 3, apple pie result 4. And the goal would be that when a user comes in, they type in something, they hit search, they're going to see a bunch of results, then they can click one and kind of target that. So the main goal of this collaboration would be for everyone to add 1 or 2 wireframes, and then we would evaluate, add some notes, and then we would use that for the UX team. Hopefully you're not doing everything by yourself, but often we do. Then you would start to build that at a higher quality or higher fidelity that you would then use to evaluate. So I'm going to open it up for chat and questions, and I think if you guys want to, we'll let you guys play a little bit, and we can answer questions as you're playing. If anybody wants to come off mute, feel free. Trish, again, you're our host.
I really like, I love the idea of being able to vote on the top features and just, and starting from there. Yeah. So, I guess, how do you drive us back over to that spot? Is that something that everybody independently should go to?
Yeah. So,
play around with it?
yeah, those are the different templates that we added over here in that step 3, ideate.
There
Remember
we
which
are.
step
Okay.
we're in. Yep. So I can say, everyone come to me, and zoom in. So what'll happen is, as you start to play, that's dot voting. So delete that. You can kind of look at each one of these templates, and they are, oh, I see what happened. Dot voting. Looks like we got 2 traps together. So move this one down, grab these items and put them back up here. So one of the things you want to make sure as a facilitator is you want to lock things down so people don't accidentally move them if you don't want them to. So I locked the template down, and so now you're able, actually I'm going to unlock that for a second. You're able to click inside of it and pick elements as well. I'll lock it.
And besides voting, is there a way to link into something like a Google form or something so that you could actually export that data?
Yeah, so what's really cool is if you take, I'll grab the TLDC site as an example. So if you grab a URL, and that could be that Google form, you can copy, and if you come into your Miro board and just hit paste, it'll automatically grab the title and or image from the site. So if it was a Google form, it would grab it. So you can see here's the TLD site. So you could have a little piece of text next to it and say, hey, don't forget to vote now, and that would launch. There's also a embed command, and I haven't tried it with a Google form, but it may be possible to have that form take place within the Miro board so everyone can do it individually. And normally we wouldn't be sharing the screen and mirroring.
Right.
We'd have everyone just coming in through Miro.
Yeah.
And
That's
everyone kind
cool.
of follow. Yeah. What's nice about that too is at the bottom of the board, I just added some different tools and links that you can go play with, but you can see here when I copy and pasted the Miro board, it grabbed the title, the logo, as well as the blurb. So depending on how the site is set up, it'll grab those elements and allow you to, when you click it, it'll just link out to it. So if I touch it and go ahead and unlock it, you have the little arrow so I can go to the source and it would launch into that site. So kind of cool. So the last 2 phases is once you do the, you kind of do the voting thing, you kind of organize everything. You would do some sketches, you would do the lo-fi, you would go into the hi-fi, you're getting feedback as you go through each of those rounds. You might do the voting thing again. You might use that dot voting to have people move things around and say, I love this part. I don't really understand why we're prioritizing this area here. And then, based on that data, you might send out a link to everyone and say, hey, go play and give me feedback, or you might walk them through on a one-on-one session, and you would allow them to give you feedback on what they're seeing, how they're interacting. But then the whole goal here is to kind of go around and around and around until you feel good, your stakeholder feels good, your audience is happy because they've had a say throughout the whole process by giving you feedback. And then as you select or launch that LMS, you would be a lot closer to knowing that it's going to be successful because you've listened to all the feedback that you've gotten throughout the whole process. So it is time consuming, and but by building this in, you don't invest into an LMS for 2 years and then have to, circle back and start over again, getting ready already after the first month. You're like, no. And I know this group wouldn't do that, but your job is to help evangelize and help everyone understand the process and make sure that they're doing the work to make sure they're making the best selection, not just picking the LMS because it connects to what our sales team has, which is often what we get stuck with.
So maybe I can go into the Slack group and just, see if we can get folks to come in and get into the voting piece.
Mm-hmm.
And see if we can get that built out a little bit more, and then we could and then talk about ideating, maybe even a little bit in there in a conversation, and then schedule something else. I'm just like, when I look at Miro, I get so overwhelmed with ideas as far as like how useful this is for product development. So I kind of my head just like starts going all over the place with all these ideas that I have about things. So it is for me a little overwhelming.
And even for learning applications, you could build stuff into here too. That'd be kind of fun. Nick, is there a way to put like I don't know, link, like, I don't even know what to call it, placeholder, something so people could click through and be taken to the next screen or taken somewhere on the board?
Yeah, so one of the things I think I added after the first session is you can have a note when people come in, so it kind of walks them through. As facilitator, whoever owns the board can hide things. So I don't recall, honestly, if I did it last week or not, last time we got together, but you can hide a board so it just shows a eye closed. So when you click it, everyone would then, that would be revealed. As a facilitator, you can also have presentation mode activated, which basically shows the presenter along the left-hand side. So if everyone was in the MIRO board, it would automatically move you from area 1 to 2 to 3. So it's kind of like a PowerPoint, but you can ask everyone to write your name, do that dot voting, click on the sticky note that you want to rank higher.
Nice.
Yeah, kind of pull it together.
Yeah, because I can see people kind of getting lost trying to find their way around if they're just looking and scrolling and stuff. I like the follow me feature too.
Yeah, that works
cool.
well. And what's exciting is that yes, you'll get the 1 or 2 people that are like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And that's cool. But as they do it 2 or 3 times and you kind of build it in, it quickly gets adapted. And I think I mentioned last time that one of the things that excites me is that, we have 50 people in a session and they start just doing things organically. So, we're talking about these 3 points under search. They'll start moving these things together and like, okay, I think it's this order. And I'm like, whoa. So you got to kind of get used to that flow. And if you have a co-host or a cohort, a key team, you might have them start to lead the way. So you're setting a good example. So when the others are coming in, they're like, oh, I can just move that, or this is where I add my notes. So often, like when we had the dot voting as an example, you might say, this is A, B, and C people, so that when people come in, they know that, oh, I'm blue and you're orange, and these are the ones that we get. So it's a little bit more organized, but we're doing the Wild West version. So we're seeing where everyone goes.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great feedback too, in a way.
Yes. That's good. So maybe we'll do a couple of chats, a couple of quick videos to kind of summarize these things, and then we'll ask people if they want to do more interactive or if they want to go back to the normal broadcast, whatever makes everyone happy.
Right. No, This is great. This is great. I'd like to promote, just get it on the Slack board, see if we can get a little more engagement in there and see what we come up with. I mean, just the voting alone is a really interesting process just to see what people find value. And hey, there's Quetzal. Yeah. So I think that sounds great.
Cool. Yeah, it's in the other one. We're always on chat, and I'm like, I want to see people's faces. I have little icons, but I was like, hoping everyone would chat.
Yeah.
Very cool.
This is great. Okay, cool.
All right.
So I guess maybe turn off the recording, and then I got one more question for you after you turn off the recording. And